The first scream came from somewhere deep in the limestone pit, too far down to see, too real to ignore. No one could tell if it was Ethan, Mia, or the echo of something older. All they saw was the flicker of a single candle, far below the jagged rocks, moving against the wind. The flame bent, dimmed, and then it blinked out. And just like that, the night swallowed them whole. The abandoned limestone quarry sat on the outskirts of Hullbrook, a small, rusting town in Missouri that people only mentioned when talking about the past. Locals said it used to be one of the biggest employers in the 1950s, until the explosions, the cave-ins, and the disappearances. Now it was nothing but a scar of jagged cliffs and shadowed pits. But for kids, it was a dare. The story went like this. If you sneak into the quarry at midnight and follow the candlelight between the rocks, you'll hear a whisper asking for your name. If you answer, you never come back. No one really believed it, until last fall, when 3 high school seniors vanished after homecoming night. Ethan Cole was the one who started the new dare. Tall, fearless, always smirking, he lived for that rush that came right before fear turned real. With him were Mia Torres, quiet and sharp-eyed, the one who recorded everything for her YouTube channel, Urban Myths Midwest. Connor Blake, the skeptic, clutching his flashlight like a weapon. Lena Marsh, who pretended not to be scared, but gripped Ethan's arm every time the wind shifted. Jake Riley, the youngest, and the one who'd rather die than be called a coward. It was supposed to be one night of fun, proof for social media, something to brag about. But the moment they crossed the rusted fence, the air changed. The quarry was darker than any of them expected. No streetlights, no glow from the town, just miles of limestone walls rising like broken teeth under a starless sky. The air smelled of old rain and dust. "Man, it's dead quiet," Jake whispered. Mia raised her camera. "Perfect atmosphere, just keep the flash low." Ethan laughed. "What, you scared of ghosts, Mia?" "Not ghosts," she said. "Stories. They start like this. Dumb kids in the dark." A gust of wind passed over them, carrying something faint, like humming. It came from deep within the pit. Ethan grinned. "There, you hear that? That's where we're going." Connor turned on his flashlight. "You sure? It's probably just wind through the rocks." "Yeah." Ethan smirked. "Then let's prove it." They started climbing down. Halfway down the path, Mia froze. Her camera light caught something ahead. A small candle flickering softly behind a rock. No one had lit it. There was no wind here, no footprints in the dust. The wax had melted down the stone like tears. Connor cursed under his breath. "Who the hell lit that?" Ethan crouched near it, smirking. "Maybe the ghosts want us to feel welcome." "Don't touch it," Mia said sharply. "If this is a setup for your video, I swear." But before she could finish, Ethan reached out and snuffed the flame with his fingers. The smoke curled upward, thick and black, and for a moment, Mia swore she heard a whisper in it, a voice too faint to understand. Something like, "Don't leave the light." They kept going, deeper. The hum became a voice. Not loud, but steady, like a child humming a lullaby. Jake muttered, "It's coming from down there." Ethan nodded. "Then that's where we're heading." The quarry widened into a bowl-shaped clearing, its floor covered in white dust, broken stone, and pools of water that reflected candlelight. Hundreds of candles, all flickering at once. Mia gasped, her camera shaking. "Ethan, are you seeing this?" Connor whispered. "They're moving." The flames were shifting, almost breathing, in rhythm. And then, one by one, the candles started to go out. The last of the candles went out all at once, not with wind, but with intention. The air seemed to suck itself inward, pulling sound away until the quarry was nothing but the sound of everyone's breathing. "Guys," Jake whispered. "I can't see anything." Connor flicked his flashlight on, and the beam didn't go far. It hit dust, then stone, then faces. Dozens of faces carved into the limestone walls. Primitive, uneven, some smiling, some screaming, each lit by a thin line of melted wax running from their eyes like tears. Mia's camera caught the shimmer. "These weren't here before," she said. "I've seen old pictures of this place. These carvings are new." Ethan moved closer. "They look like us," Lena finished. "They look like us." Each face had a faint resemblance. Ethan's jawline, Mia's hair, Jake's freckles. The deeper they stared, the clearer it became. Connor backed up, shaking his head. "That's not possible. Someone's screwing with us." "Who?" Mia hissed. "No one else is here." A sound rose again, this time not humming, a voice low and echoing coming from beneath their feet. "Leave the light burning," it said, almost like a sigh. Then silence. Ethan laughed nervously. "All right, who's doing the creepy voice thing? Jake? You brought a speaker?" Jake's face was pale. "No, man, I swear. Something knocked beneath the ground. 3 times. Stone against stone. And then one candle relit itself. No match, no hand. Just fire blooming from nothing. The wax dripped in slow motion, landing at Ethan's shoes. "There's a tunnel," Connor said. He had spotted a crack in the quarry wall where the flame seemed to lead. It was barely wide enough for one person at a time. Ethan grinned. "Guess that's where the real fun starts." "Ethan, no," Mia warned. "This isn't a game anymore. We got enough footage, let's just go." He turned toward her, the smirk still there, but uneasy now. "You're free to leave, but I'm checking it out." He ducked into the opening, flashlight slicing through the dust. Lena hesitated, then followed. Jake went next. Connor sighed and went after them. Mia stood at the entrance, camera shaking in her hands. She whispered to herself, "If this footage survives, someone needs to know." Then she followed. The tunnel sloped downward, spiraling like a throat. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Their breaths came out in white puffs, despite it being late summer above ground. The passage opened into a huge underground chamber, limestone walls streaked black with soot. In the center stood a stone altar surrounded by a ring of burned-out candles. But there was something else. A hole in the ground, narrow but deep, from which the faint glow of more candles flickered far below. Jake peered down. "How far do you think that goes?" "Too far," Connor said. "We're leaving." But Ethan was staring at the altar. On its surface, carved into the stone, were names, hundreds of them. And the newest 5 were fresh, still wet as if carved minutes ago. Ethan, Mia, Connor, Lena, Jake. Mia screamed. The sound bounced around the chamber like it couldn't find a way out. Every candle in the chamber relit at once. Flames burned blue, thin and silent. From the hole came the sound of breathing, hundreds of lungs pulling air through water. Then a whisper, "Stay, the quarry remembers." The floor trembled. A chunk of limestone broke loose from the wall, revealing something behind it. A hand, pale, wax-covered, moving slightly as if it had been waiting for this moment. Lena stumbled backward. "It's alive. There's someone in the wall." The hand reached out further, dripping melted wax instead of blood. The air filled with the stench of burned tallow and rot. Ethan pulled Lena away, but when he turned, Jake was gone. His flashlight lay on the ground, still on, pointing toward the hole. Jake's flashlight rolled to a stop at the edge of the hole, the beam slicing into the darkness below. Dust floated in its glow like tiny insects suspended in air. "Jake!" Ethan shouted, his voice cracking. "You down there?" Nothing. Not an echo. Not even the return of his own voice. It was as if the sound had been swallowed by the rock. Mia aimed her camera into the hole. "It's just black," she whispered. "No bottom, no echo, nothing." Connor crouched and picked up Jake's flashlight. The metal was cold, too cold, like it had been in a freezer. "There's no way he just disappeared," he muttered. "He must have slipped somewhere, hit a ledge." But as he moved the light slowly around the chamber, something caught his eye. On the wall beside the altar, new carvings had appeared, a single word repeated 5 times. Harlow. Each letter seemed freshly etched, flecks of white dust still falling from them. Mia lowered her camera. "This place is alive," she said. "It's watching us." Ethan clenched his jaw. "No. Someone's messing with us. Jake's hiding. He's trying to freak us out." But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. They decided to follow the tunnel deeper toward the direction Jake might have gone. The narrow passage twisted and curved, the air growing colder with every step. Their footsteps echoed strangely, out of sync. Mia noticed first. She stopped listening. The echoes were still walking even after they did. "Ethan," she whispered. "Listen." The footsteps behind them slowed, then stopped. Then something exhaled. A long, slow breath rolled through the tunnel, carrying a smell of old wax, wet stone, and rot. The candles along the walls flickered in response, as though the quarry itself was breathing with them. Lena whimpered. "Please, I want to go back." Ethan looked at her, trying to sound steady. "We just find Jake and we're gone, okay? We'll tell the cops or whatever, just keep moving." The tunnel opened into another chamber, smaller, domed, the ceiling dripping with moisture. In the center was a pool of water, still and black as oil. Connor shined his light on it and all 3 froze. Jake's face stared up at them from beneath the surface, eyes open. Then it moved. Mia screamed. The water rippled. Jake's face distorted, eyes rolling, mouth widening too far, bubbles rising from the corners of his lips. Ethan reached in without thinking, plunging his arm into the icy water. He felt something soft, flesh, and grabbed it. He pulled. What came out wasn't Jake. It looked like him at first glance. Same hoodie, same hair, but the body was wrong. Its skin was waxy, its mouth sealed shut as if molded from candle wax. When Ethan dropped it, it didn't splash. It just thudded against the stone. The wax figure cracked open slightly on impact, and something small rolled out. A candle. A tiny, used candle, still warm. Lena backed into the wall. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's making them into candles." Connor stared at the wax shell of Jake. His voice trembled. "That's not Jake. That's what's left after." Before anyone could speak, every candle in the chamber burst into flame. Blue light bathed the walls, and the reflection of dozens, maybe hundreds. They were trapped there, flickering in the reflection, mouths opening and closing in silent screams. Then, softly, the whisper returned. The wax figure on the ground began to melt rapidly, smoke curling upward into human shapes that stretched across the ceiling like shadows trying to escape. Mia stumbled backward, clutching her camera. "We have to get out, now!" Ethan grabbed her wrist and they ran. Connor and Lena followed, sprinting up the tunnel as the candles along the walls flared and popped, spilling molten wax across the stone like blood. But the path behind them was changing. The tunnel twisted in on itself, reshaping, the walls breathing like lungs. The quarry wasn't a place anymore. It was alive. And it was hungry. They reached a split in the path, one leading up, one leading deeper down. The air above was faintly warmer, carrying a whisper of night wind. "This way," Connor shouted, heading upward. But Ethan stopped. He looked at his hand, where he had touched the wax version of Jake. Something was burned into his skin. A small mark, a candle, and beneath it, letters carved as if by invisible fingernails, EC. His initials. The mark began to glow faintly, and the smell of melting wax filled the air again. Ethan didn't say a word. He just ran. The tunnel seemed endless now. Every few steps, the walls trembled as if something vast beneath the earth was shifting its weight. A deep, rhythmic thud echoed through the rock. Slow, steady, like the beating of a heart. "The ground's moving," Lena gasped. It's alive." "Keep running," Ethan shouted, but his voice cracked. His breath came in sharp, icy bursts. The deeper they went, the colder it became, like the quarry was draining the warmth out of them. Behind them, faint light danced on the walls, candles, hundreds of them, following. They weren't being carried, they floated. Mia tripped over a jagged rock and fell. Her camera skidded across the floor, the red recording light blinking in the dark. Ethan turned back, grabbed her, and pulled her up. "Leave it," he said. "No," she hissed, clutching the camera. "If we die here, someone needs to see." Connor stopped, panting, leaning against the wall. "The tunnel's looping," he said. "We've been here before. Look." He pointed at the wall, at the faint handprint Lena had left earlier, smeared in dust. Same place. The air began to hum again, deep, low, vibrating in their bones. The stone around them pulsed in time with it. "What is that?" Lena whispered. Mia turned slowly, eyes wide. "It's heartbeat. The quarry has a heartbeat." The tunnel widened without warning, spilling them into a vast open cavern, the biggest yet. The walls stretched up and up until they vanished into darkness. The air was thick, damp, and filled with the smell of smoke and wax. In the center stood a massive column of candles, stacked and melted together into one writhing pillar. Faces bulged from its sides, some half-formed, others clearly human. The flames burned from their eyes and mouths. Connor gagged. "Oh God, they're alive." Mia raised the camera with shaking hands. This is what happened to them, the kids, everyone who disappeared." Lena whimpered. "They're still moving." The faces shifted, their mouths opening in silent screams. And then, one by one, they began to whisper. Not words, names, over and over. Ethan, Mia, Lena, Connor. Each name echoed from a different face. Each flame flickered when spoken. Ethan stepped forward. "What do you want from us?" he shouted. The whispers stopped. For a heartbeat, the cavern went completely still. Then, from the pillar of wax, a single face pushed forward. Its features twisted into something resembling a child. Eyes hollow, mouth dripping molten wax. It spoke. "Light for light. You took the flame. Now the quarry takes you." Ethan stumbled back. "I didn't," but he remembered. The first candle, the one he'd snuffed out. The child's face melted back into the pillar, leaving only the faint hiss of burning air. Then the ground beneath them cracked open. The floor gave way. They fell, screaming as rock and dust collapsed around them. The drop wasn't far, but the impact drove the air from their lungs. They landed on a slope of rubble and slid until they came to rest in a narrow pit. Mia coughed, gasping for air. Her flashlight had shattered, leaving only the weak glow of her camera's light. Ethan groaned beside her, his hand pressed to the glowing mark on his skin. The candle symbol was brighter now, pulsing in time with the quarry's heartbeat. Connor sat up, his face pale. "Where's Lena?" They turned. She wasn't there. Her scream came from somewhere above them, faint and distant, echoing off the stone. Then, silence. When the echoes died, the heartbeat grew louder. A faint red light began to glow in the darkness ahead. It wasn't fire. It was deeper, like the glow of heated metal. They moved toward it cautiously, breath visible in the freezing air. As they turned a corner, the passage opened into a smaller chamber filled with broken mining equipment, rusted carts, pickaxes, old helmets. Everything was coated in wax. And in the middle, on the floor, was Lena. Her body lay perfectly still, covered in a thin, glistening layer of wax. Her eyes were open, but instead of pupils, small flames burned in them. Mia screamed. Connor pulled her away. Ethan dropped to his knees beside Lena. shaking her. "Lena, hey, look at me." Her mouth moved, barely. She whispered one word, "Run." Then the flames in her eyes went out, and her body collapsed inward like melting candle wax. Within seconds, there was nothing left but a puddle of cooling wax and the faint smell of smoke. Ethan backed away, his hands shaking. "We're next." All of us. Mia's camera caught a flicker of movement down the tunnel. A shadow. Human-shaped, it was Jake. He was walking slowly toward them, head tilted, eyes glowing faintly orange. His skin shimmered with wax, his movements stiff, unnatural. "Jake?" Connor whispered. "Is that you?" Jake smiled. Wax cracked across his face. Then he spoke, but his voice wasn't his own. It was dozens of voices layered together. The Quarry remembers. Jake stood in the tunnel, his body half shadow, half wax. The orange glow in his eyes wasn't light. It was movement, the flickering of candle flames. Alive. "Jake?" Ethan's voice broke. What happened to you?" Jake tilted his head. His jaw creaked as he tried to speak. The sound that came out was dry, papery, like burning leaves. "They don't burn you," he said slowly. "They keep you." Connor stepped forward cautiously. "Jake, listen, we're gonna get you help." Jake smiled too wide. "It doesn't hurt anymore," he whispered. "It's warm." He lifted one hand, and the light from his eyes flared brighter. The walls began to melt. Wax trickled down from the ceiling, glowing faintly red as if lit from within. "The Quarry doesn't forget," Jake said. "Every name stays, every light feeds the next." Mia was backing away, trembling. "You're not Jake." He blinked slowly, and for a second, just a heartbeat, she saw the real Jake inside the wax shell. His face contorted in silent panic, then it vanished. Ethan grabbed Mia's arm. "Run." They bolted, sprinting through the uneven passage as the tunnel shuddered. The wax spreading across the walls began to drip faster, sealing off corridors behind them. Each drop hit the floor with a hiss, releasing smoke that smelled faintly sweet, like candle stores on fire. Connor stumbled, catching himself on a stone outcropping. His hand left a print in the soft wax covering it. "Keep going," Ethan yelled. But Connor looked at his palm. A faint glow had started beneath the skin, like a tiny ember buried in flesh. "Ethan," he began, but his voice caught in his throat. The ember spread up his wrist. Ethan turned, eyes wide. No, Connor, come on." Connor looked up, tears in his eyes. "It's inside me." Then he burst into flame, not fire that consumed, but light that hollowed. His eyes glowed for a moment, and his mouth opened as if to scream, but no sound came out. He froze in place, a human candle. Then the flame dimmed, leaving only a figure of wax standing in the tunnel. The flame drifted free of his body, floating like a tiny ghost toward the ceiling, joining dozens of others that now hovered above. The Quarry was taking them back. Ethan and Mia stumbled into a vast corridor, the air thick with heat and the sound of whispering. It wasn't English now, some old rhythmic chant that made their ears ring. At the far end, carved into the stone, was an old wooden door reinforced with iron. It looked impossibly ancient, the wood blackened with soot. Etched into its surface were hundreds of candle symbols. They hesitated, then pushed it open. Beyond was an ancient cathedral-like chamber, the heart of the Quarry. Massive stone columns rose into the darkness, and every inch of wall was covered with candle holders. Thousands of candles burned, casting the room in a shimmering gold haze. At the center stood a single figure, an old woman in a long black dress, her face hidden by a wax mask. Mia froze. Who is that?" The woman's voice was dry and steady. "The Keeper of Flame, the Quarry's breath." Ethan stepped forward, fists clenched. "What did you do to them?" "They came for the dare," she said. "They came for the thrill. They took the light that wasn't theirs." Her head tilted. Now they burn for others. She gestured toward the candles. Each one contained a faint silhouette, a person. Some faces were young, some old, some terrified, all flickering within the flame. Mia whispered, "Their souls." "Yes," the woman said simply, "light for light." Ethan's voice trembled. "You can stop this. Let them go." The woman smiled behind her wax mask. "Every flame here once begged the same thing." Mia lifted her camera, filming her. "Why us?" "Because you remembered the story," the woman said, "and stories keep the fire alive." As she spoke, the mark on Ethan's hand began to burn again, glowing brighter. He looked down. It was no longer a candle. It was now a wick, lit. He was next. Mia grabbed his arm. "No, fight it!" The woman raised her hand, and the candles nearest them flared, their flames bending toward Ethan. "He took the first light," she said. "He ends the circle." Ethan screamed as fire spread through his veins, but this time it wasn't heat. It was cold, hollow light filling him from inside. "Run!" he gasped. "Mia, go!" But she refused. "I'm not leaving you." Ethan's eyes met hers. His pupils were gone, replaced by two small, trembling flames. Then, "Remember," he whispered, "keep the story alive." The air exploded with light. When Mia opened her eyes, she was outside the quarry. The sky was gray, morning. Her clothes were soaked, her camera still in her hand. She coughed, sitting up, and looked behind her. The quarry was silent. The candles were gone. She turned on the camera. It still worked, still recording. The last footage was corrupted, static, distorted audio, Ethan's voice whispering one phrase over and over. "Don't leave the light." She looked down at her arm. There was a small burn mark on her wrist, a candle unlit. Morning light never looked so gray. Mia sat on the hood of her car, parked just outside the rusted quarry fence. The engine wouldn't start. Every time she turned the key, she swore she could hear faint whispering through the vents, like air moving through a throat instead of a carburetor. Her hands shook. The camera lay beside her, screen cracked but still glowing red. Recording. "If anyone finds this," she whispered into the lens. "Ethan, Connor, Lena, Jake, they're gone. The quarry, it takes you. It burns you alive, but you don't die. You stay. You burn forever." The words felt unreal even as she said them. The mark on her wrist pulsed softly, the shape of the candle shimmering beneath her skin. She turned the camera around to face the quarry. In daylight, it looked harmless, a gaping wound filled with fog. But as she zoomed in, something flickered deep inside. A tiny light, swaying between the rocks. The candlelight. Mia lowered the camera slowly. No, that's not possible. By noon, she reached Halbrook's main street. 3 diners, a gas station, and the old courthouse that hadn't been open in years. Everything looked the same, yet quieter. The few people she passed barely looked at her. She went straight to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Dalton was behind the desk, reading the local paper. His badge was polished, but the office smelled of dust and coffee gone stale. When Mia stumbled in, he looked up with tired eyes. "Mia Torres? Haven't seen you since you graduated," he said. "Heard you were filming something out at the quarry." Her throat was dry. "You need to send someone. They're gone. Ethan, Connor, all of them. The quarry. There's something in there." He leaned back. "You kids in that quarry. Every generation the same story." "I'm serious," she snapped. "I saw them. Faces in the walls, the candles." Dalton's eyes darkened. "You shouldn't have gone out there." "What?" He stood slowly, walked to the window and drew the blinds. "Some things around here are left alone for a reason." Mia stared at him. "You knew." He didn't answer, just turned his wrist slightly. For a split second, under his sleeve, she saw it, a faint burn mark, a candle. That night, she hid in her room at her parents' house, laptop open, camera connected. The files transferred one by one, glitching and stuttering, but intact. She watched the footage of the quarry, the candles, the faces, Ethan's last words. But something new appeared at the end of the video. Footage she hadn't recorded. It showed her, asleep in her bed, the candle mark glowing faintly on her wrist. A single whisper accompanied the footage. Light for light, Mia's breath caught. She turned toward her nightstand. A candle sat there, small and white. She hadn't put it there. The wick was smoking. The next day, the news spread through town. A gas explosion at the quarry. Locals said kids must have gone down there again. No bodies found, just scorched stone and melted wax coating the cliffs. Mia drove out to the site. Smoke still rose from the pit, but she noticed something wrong. The ground near the edge was warm under her shoes. She knelt and brushed away the soot. Beneath it was a faint glow, like fire beneath glass. The heartbeat was still there. When she backed away, she saw her shadow stretched across the quarry wall. But it wasn't alone. 4 more shadows stood beside hers. Ethan, Connor, Lena, Jake. Faint outlines flickering like candlelight. Her camera beeped. It had turned on by itself. That night she uploaded the footage, the full story. The faces, the tunnels, the woman in wax. She didn't edit a single frame. The title read, "Candlelight in the Quarry, the Real Story." Within hours, it exploded online. Millions of views, comments filled with disbelief, fear, mockery. Great special effects. Fake, but creepy. Wait, who's the guy in the background at 4:22? Mia froze. She opened the video, scrolled to 4:22 and paused. Behind her, just over her shoulder in the footage, stood a man made of wax, Ethan. He was smiling. Her screen flickered and the video restarted from the beginning, but this time the voice narrating wasn't hers. It was his. The next morning, Holbrook woke to find candles placed on every doorstep. White wax, black wick, unlit. When the wind blew, the wicks flared on their own. People started disappearing again. By the end of the week, the quarry was fenced off, this time with warning signs and guards. But every night someone saw candlelight moving between the rocks. And in the shadows, Mia stood watching, her wrist glowing faintly through her sleeve. She smiled through tears, whispering into the dark. He said to keep the story alive. The water from Holbrook Quarry ran downstream into the river that split through 3 other towns before vanishing into the woods. A week after the explosion, fishermen in Gray Point reported something strange. Their nets came back filled with molten wax instead of fish. And when they poured the wax out, they swore they heard it whisper. Mia hadn't slept in days. Her phone buzzed non-stop with notifications, interviews, messages, offers. Everyone wanted to talk about her viral horror video. No one believed it was real, except her. Each time she played the footage, the voices in the background grew clearer, more insistent. Sometimes she heard Ethan's voice say her name. Sometimes it said, "Come back." She stopped uploading, stopped answering calls. But at night, her laptop would turn on by itself, glowing faintly. The same red recording light from the quarry camera. And always there it was again on the screen. A new file, time-stamped from minutes ago. When she opened one, it showed her sleeping. Candlelight flickering around her. And Ethan whispering, "You left the fire unfinished." 3 weeks later, a boy from a nearby town disappeared. His name was Drew, 16 years old. His friends said he'd been watching Mia's video over and over before he vanished. They found his phone by the riverbank, its flashlight on. The video was still playing, paused at a frame showing the quarry, zoomed in on the candlelight between the rocks. When police arrived, they saw the same thing Mia had seen, a faint glow under the water, a heartbeat beneath the current. By late November, every town connected by that river began reporting the same signs. Strange lights flickering through the fog, the smell of burning wax, and voices echoing under bridges. People started calling it the Candle Plague. Scientists blamed methane pockets, old mine fires, hallucinations from toxic gas leaks. But the locals whispered another name, the Quarry's Breath. Mia tried to warn them online, but her posts vanished minutes after she made them. Her account was flagged, deleted, and reappeared on its own, posting cryptic clips of candlelight and whispers. She didn't upload them. Ethan did. She drove back to Halbrook on the coldest night of the year. The air smelled of rain and burnt dust. The entire town was silent. Too silent. Streetlights flickered, casting long shadows that pulsed like breathing. When she reached the quarry fence, she saw them waiting. Dozens of figures, standing motionless. Each one holding a candle. Their faces were pale, waxen, almost featureless. The flames reflected in the hollow pits where eyes should have been. As she stepped closer, one of them tilted its head. Mia. It was Ethan's voice. Her breath hitched. "What do you want?" "Finish what you started." He stepped forward, wax cracking along his jaw. "You showed the world the fire. Now they must see." She backed away, but the candle mark on her wrist blazed with light, pulsing in rhythm with the flames. The pain dropped her to her knees. The last thing she remembered before blacking out was Ethan's hand reaching toward her, and the whisper of thousands of voices saying one word in unison: light. When Mia woke, it was daylight again. But she wasn't in Halbrook. She was in a new quarry, different rocks, different cliffs, and hundreds of candles burning all around. At the edge of the pit stood a group of teenagers with phones and flashlights filming. One girl whispered, "Dare you to go down there." Mia screamed, but no sound came out. Her voice was gone. Her skin felt heavy, sticky. When she looked down, she realized her fingers had hardened, translucent, yellowish, wax. The camera turned toward her. "Hey," one of the teens said, "who lit all these candles?" Mia tried to move, tried to speak, but all she could do was smile as the flame inside her chest flickered to life. The world outside the quarry seemed normal, but it wasn't. Every screen, every reflection in mirrors or windows flickered with candlelight. People reported it in homes, schools, and offices. At first, they thought it was a glitch or prank. Then, they disappeared. Mia, now more candle than human, stood at the center of the pit. The teens who had dared to follow her were frozen, mesmerized by her glowing body. The wax mark on her wrist pulsed like a heartbeat. She tried to remember herself, to fight it, but the fire inside whispered, light for light, name for name. The camera in one teen's hand captured her transformation. Skin melting into wax, hair dripping like tallow, eyes glowing faint orange. Flames flickering from her mouth whenever she moved. Her first thought, the human one, was fear. Her second, the curse's voice, was hunger. The teenagers began to scream, but the sound never left the quarry. Instead, the screams were captured, projected, recorded, and broadcast across every device. People watching from home heard their own names whispered in the footage. And in that moment, the quarry's reach went beyond Halbrook. From screens to cameras, from reflections to photographs, the curse leapt. Each candle lit another, each flame claimed another. Mia's mind, human and wax, tried to resist. She wanted to scream for Ethan, Connor, Lena, Jake. But their voices were part of the chorus now, whispering, singing, guiding the new victims. Light, burn, stay. The quarry had become a network. Not just a pit in Missouri, it was everywhere in everyone who saw it. Every dare, every view, every whisper brought it closer. Mia's final thought, human and desperate, was a prayer. Someone, stop it. The teens were gone, replaced by wax forms with candles flickering inside their chest. Mia raised her hand, and from her fingertips, tiny wicks ignited the entire pit. The light spread like wildfire, climbing the cliffs, filling the sky with a flickering glow. For a moment, the world outside paused. Screens flickered, lights went out. A whisper echoed across the globe. "Don't leave the light." And then the feed cut. The cameras recorded only darkness. The quarry had consumed the world in silence. Every candle, every flame, every soul burned, but never died. The curse was complete, and somewhere in the glow of 1,000 candles, a faint smile appeared. Mia's. Halbrook and the surrounding towns were empty when authorities finally arrived. The quarry looked abandoned. No smoke, no fire, no signs of life, only scorched stone and scattered ashes. But when night fell, travelers, hikers, and curious teens reported seeing Candlelight moving between the rocks. Whispers drifted on the wind, "Don't leave the light, don't leave the light." And deep below, the quarry pulsed with a heartbeat that could be heard by anyone daring to listen too closely. The legend was alive. The fire had spread, and the world would never forget the Candlelight in the quarry.